week. Just set an intention for our time together this morning. And let that intention remain present in your heart and mind. So God, we are open and receptive now to your spirit in each of us, guiding and leading us in this time, so that our investment of time and energy here is very fruitful for each one. We are open and receptive to new ideas, to clarity. We give thanks that this is all unfolding divinely now in divine order. And so it is, and we give thanks and let our hearts be grateful for the blessings of this time, giving thanks in advance, and we all say, Amen. Thank you all. So, everyone has their name. Can everyone read everybody's name? Okay, here's what I'd like to do, to just say your name, because this helps us know each other better. Say your name, and if you had a career, just name the career. If you didn't, name something that you're passionate about. Okay, so I mean, one of my favorite career, well, this is my favorite career.
No, good.
Right answer.
Yeah, it is a good answer.
Right answer.
But my other one was working for the airlines. At the O'Hare Airport in Chicago. Very exciting. You know what's odd? I love the smell of airplane fuel. I don't know what it is.
It makes you high.
Well, it's words coming. Okay, so let us begin with Eileen. Your name and your favorite career, name it, or if you were a homemaker, name what you're passionate about.
I'm Eileen Barber. Though this was not my last career, my favorite career was in physical therapy.
Physical therapy? Oh, great, thank you.
Betty Jo Johnson, Graham Betty.
Say that again?
Graham Betty.
Graham.
I'm great grandma. They call me Graham Betty.
Good, thank you.
Kathy Philippone. I had a nut and bolt company, fasteners.
Oh.
Yeah, it holds the world together. You know?
Yes. I love it. Thank you.
My name is Donna. I had a career in music.
Yes, you did. Were you teaching it?
Yes.
Yeah.
Public schools.
And performing too, right?
Yes.
Thank you.
My name is Linda, and my career was in healthcare.
Doug, and I was a city councilman in Naperville for 26 years.
You were what?
A city councilman for 26 years.
Really?
Wow.
Where?
Naperville, Illinois.
Oh.
Cindy, and I have two favorites. I was a clinical psychologist and also a midwife for 7 years.
Wow.
She analyzes me all the time.
And you're still smiling.
That was one of the problems.
Thank you.
I'm Darlene, and I was a teacher and a counselor for 37 years.
Thank you.
My name is Dee, and I'm currently actually a realtor part-time. But my favorite career, which is kind of a career, was working in the prisons. I used to bring recovery into prison work for a number of years. It was like a second job, and that was my most favorite.
And what were you bringing in?
Different recovery meetings, 12-step meetings,
God, I
workshops on self-development and
Oh,
spirituality, meditation. Yeah, so it was really rewarding.
Here in your
Federal prison up on I-17. I don't even know it exists. It's on I-17 near Anthem. It's way back in a beautiful section.
Yeah.
Have you seen it near the Pioneer tourist place? So people come there, and behind it is this maximum prison and a very low prison for women.
wow.
Interesting.
I'm Arlene, and I was a registered nurse for many
And my name is Sig, and my favorite career was me.
You're pretty funny.
What did she say? I have to hear that. Everybody's laughing.
Her favorite career was her.
Okay. Thank you.
My name is Joy Love, and I had two careers, both of them my favorite. The first was I was a high school teacher in the suburb of Chicago for 20 years until the school board decided, or the school district decided nobody needed any home ec or art or music because they were all going to college. So we all disappeared. Boom. So I went on to be then here, and I was interior designer for Ethan Allen, the first one that opened. So then I've been doing that, and I had my own window treatment business as well with a partner, and that was in Delaware because I move a lot. So those are my two, and I was that until about 5 years ago. I worked up until about 5 years ago, and I truly miss working because to me it wasn't working.
Yeah.
It was great, and I miss it.
Where in Chicago?
I live down in an area called Park Forest,
Oh, yeah.
and down in that area, and I was a teacher in Crete, Illinois, and down here, my kids went to Illinois State,
Okay.
so Homer Flossmoor, all that, yeah.
For our Chicagoland area folks.
Well, I think that my would be, let's see, it would be my daughter-in-law's brother is maybe is a mayor or some political person in Naperville right now.
Jericho's the mayor right now.
Uh-huh.
Jericho is his name, last name.
No, then he must be, and maybe, yeah. Okay.
Well, it was Prado for 20 years prior to that.
Yeah, okay. Well, I know he's in that area and he has a political background.
Maybe you can find out and tell Doug, so, you know.
Yeah, that would be, yeah.
Thanks, John.
My name's John, pronounced John. And I'm a former geologist with major oil companies like Chevron, Mobil, BP, stuff like that. And I'll tell you what, since I've been here in this community for like 4 months, I've heard more people say they're from Chicago than anywhere else. Oh my God, I visited there on St. Patrick's Day.
Okay.
Just, it's an amazing place.
And did we turn the water green?
Green.
There?
Yes, yes,
Okay.
yes.
That was a biggie, right?
That's
Went to the parade through Grant Park.
Did you really do that?
Yeah, the Tyler River Green.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
We should have
then,
a Chicago folks party.
yeah.
You should.
Okay, moving to the folks online. Let's start at the top. Diane?
Well, I've most recently been in private practice. I've got undergraduate and special ed, so I taught emotionally disturbed kids for several years. And then I moved into social work, working in the prisons and lots of that stuff for many years. And then the last 20 years, I've been in mental health, working in the hospitals and courts and schools and private practice.
Thank you.
But I almost worked for the airline. The same week I went into mental or special ed, I got an offer from Ansett Airlines. So I often wonder what life would have been like if I went with the airline instead.
What is that poem by Robert Browning? I stood a path diverged in the forest and
Yeah,
less traveled.
yep.
Kath?
Throughout my life, I've just been a manager, managing departments or managing IT projects, managing.
Thank you. Mary?
I like Siggy's a lot, so I'm going to go with that. But I also, my passion is international politics.
International politics? Oh, wow, great. You might want to lecture to the women's group sometime.
Pardon?
You might want to do a presentation for our women's group sometime, Mary, on international politics.
Oh, they're interested in that?
Huh? Excuse me,
They're interested in international politics.
Kathy will talk to you.
Okay.
I can't see the name on 493-538-1078. So I'm gonna go to Jan and reveal yourself in a minute. Jan? Unmute Jan. Your favorite career, Jan.
Okay. I worked on Michigan Avenue in Chicago. I was a trainer for Clinique, one of the first trainers. Then I went to selling diamonds. I'm a diamond specialist in selling diamonds for the last 27 years.
Wow, another Chicagoan.
Yeah,
Well, sort of.
so noted.
Thank you, Jan. Ken?
I was an engineer, project engineer at Kraft Foods in Chicago.
Oh, my
An
God.
engineer.
In Chicago, that's the most important part.
Thank you. Now, who's this right here?
It's Stan and Billy, I think. They must have gone. It's their phone number, I think.
Okay, can you unmute? 493-538-1078? Can you unmute?
He's not on mute. He called in. He's not using the Zoom. He's using I think, the phone number. I don't know, but I don't know who it is. But he's not on mute. The person who's using a phone number, can you identify yourself, please? With the name or a voice? Or are you just auditing us?
Yeah, maybe a secret attender. Okay, off we go. You ready?
Yeah.
Thank you all for sharing that. I want to share, as we jump into the material, I wanted to share a quote. Remember I talked about Wayne Muller last week when we met? Wayne Muller wrote a book, How Then Shall We Live? And the subtitle is Knowing We Will Die. And so he addresses some interesting, some wonderful, provocative topics and has some great stories in the book. So I loved it.
What was the name of the book again?
How Then Shall We Live? His name is Wayne Muller, M-U-L-L-E-R. He also wrote a book called Sabbath, which is about being good to yourself, taking time to rest and not get task oriented so that you burn out. Okay, but this is what he said in How Then Shall We Live. One of the things. He said, the heart of most spiritual practices is simply this. Remember who you are. Remember what you love. Remember what is sacred. Remember what is true. Remember that we will die and that this day is a gift. Remember how you wish to live. Which is, I think, the point of what we're reading right now. So any comments or questions there? Anything you want to say? Anything come up for any of you after last week's meeting? No, huh?
I planned a trip that I was putting off.
Yay!
I did.
Did you all hear that? Kathy planned a trip that she was putting off.
Yep.
Good job. Anyone else?
I made a phone call to a family member that I hadn't been talking to for a while.
Wow,
Yeah.
thank you. So online, I don't know if you heard Dee, but she said she made a phone call to a family member she hadn't been talking to for quite a while. Great. Yes.
I guess this is something of note. I finally cleaned out my front room closet that I've been wanting to do forever after I threw everything in there when I got painted flooring.
Great. So good. I mean, that counts, right? You said everything counts. Yes, Betty Jo.
Yes, I called a sister-in-law of mine who recently had a stroke, and she's 93. And she needs to practice talking, so we practice talking on the telephone.
Oh,
I could hear her quite well. She's doing much better, so I told her anytime she wants to practice, give me a call. And that was something I've been putting off, and I did.
yeah. So Betty Jo was saying she made a phone call to a sister-in-law who is not well. Did I hear it correctly?
Yes.
And had a lovely conversation of sorts. Great job, great. So that was all about don't wait, right? Don't wait. And whoops. Yeah. That's where we ended last week. Embracing the truth that all things inevitably must end encourages us not to wait in order to begin each moment in a manner that is deeply engaged. And so the question was, how engaged are you, on a scale of 1 to 10, how engaged are you in your life? When you think of, and I think I can't remember if I mentioned this last week, but you know, when I think of life, I think of 5 arenas in which we live and move and have our being, typically. One of them is our health. A second one, and here's an example, my son, who I visited last week, right, it was his birthday. How engaged is he in his good health? Halfway, because he needs to see a dentist. Don't tell him I said that. And he works to the detriment of his physical well-being. So health, and another arena is our relationships, all of them. And another arena is our finances. Another arena is our creative expression. So to consider how engaged am I? In other words, way back when I took I'm a certified coach, and so when I began that process of certification, the leader of where it was in the whole process, but at any rate, she said one of the tasks about being fully engaged and fully accountable is to keep your checkbook to the penny. So I started keeping my checkbook to the penny. So that's being fully engaged in my life. I don't enter things, or I don't not enter stuff in my register, or for those of you who are online, it would be online. Another thing she required us to do is do whatever it took to find out our net worth. So I did what it took. I didn't want to, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I don't want to look in case I don't like what I might see, but I did. So fully engaged in my finances, my health, my relationships. Am I putting off calling, like some of you were saying, putting off calling people that would be needed? Because you know, when we put stuff off, it's a drag on our energy. Can you see that? You got what, guys online? Okay, so any comments about that engagement? This is participative, you knew that, right? Yes, darling.
I would think, you know, I try to do a lot of those things, okay, but I'm fully engaged in somebody else's life right now because of what he's going through. So you have to make choices too.
Exactly. And sometimes, and you know, it's always, the scales always go like this, right?
Yeah.
Depending upon what's going on in our lives. Good point. Anybody online want to say anything? Thank you, Diane.
You know, I'll always back you up, Sharon. I was going to say, that's quite the list. I don't know if anybody else gets a little overwhelmed when they hear that list of all these things that we're to be engaged in. I certainly do. But what is helping me lately as we think about impermanence, I've also added the word eternity, because whatever we don't get done in this lifetime is still there. It's still ours to do. when you think about energy and energy flowing, at least that's my comforting thought that, I'm looking at the balance that you talked about, and sometimes it gets way out of balance with family commitments. And then, I'm sure others go through this where we go to the background, but we have time. That's all I'll say. It's endless time, right?
Think about the benefit of keeping your life in balance. What's the benefit of keeping your life in balance? Or at least doing your best to keep your life in balance.
Harmony,
Yeah.
tranquility.
Serenity, peace, serenity.
Peace.
Surrender.
Yeah.
One of the things that I've done in my life was, as a youngster, you're always told that you have to set goals and you have to set priorities and stuff like that. And I remember one day I was just sitting there going, priority. What does priority mean to me? And to me, it meant it has to be something that you're going to do or you're going to die. So, I figured, hey, I don't have to clean the house perfectly. I don't have to do all of these things that, because I'm not going to die if it doesn't get done.
There you go. There you go. What we're talking about, and Diane, thank you for rejecting that. We have eternity. We don't have to live driven. Live driven by what we think we have to do. That's not peace. And so for me, as I think about what we're sharing here, is that it's a very complex conversation. Not so simple. And yet it's simple. In that simplicity is a great deal of complexity. Can you see that? Okay, I'm going to move on unless there's another comment here. Who was saying, yeah, Kathy? No, I'm sorry. Oh, you did? Someone mentioned impermanence. I can't remember which one of you just did. But Doug, can you read this one for us? Can you see it okay from where you are, the quote?
The gift of impermanence is that it places us squarely in the here and now. What are your thoughts and emotions about the impermanence of things?
So chew on that a moment and let me know what your thoughts are. What are your thoughts and emotions about the impermanence of things? Doug?
Question, what does the word impermanence mean?
Impermanence is it's not going to last. Impermanence. So if it's permanent, it's forever, it's written in stone, right? But being alive, this book points toward we don't know how much time we have on this earth in this body. Who knows where we'll be in the next lifetime beyond this, but what we know is right here, right now, we have this body, this life. And yet, this day isn't going to be permanent, it's impermanent because tomorrow is going to be Thursday. And the sun at 12 noon is impermanent because it's going to set. And some of us can attest to all marriages aren't permanent. My emotions are not permanent. If I'm angry today, it may not be angry tomorrow. If I'm full of exuberance today, I might not be tomorrow. There's an ebb and flow. So what do you think about that? What does that tell you, John?
Emotions are thoughts of the moment, not what's coming tomorrow. You're going to change your emotions a lot of times in this day. So I think the word impermanence implies to me, it's actually a good thought. Nimble, I think of nimble, and that's fleet of foot, that's changing quickly. And that's a certain there's certain elegance in the dynamicism of change. So you gotta be fleet of foot. And that's good then, I think. Stagnant, the other is permanence is stagnant and, you know, in a state of non-change. And that doesn't sound very exciting anyway. So let's mix it up a little bit.
Yes, fleet of foot, that's an interesting,
Yeah.
what was the word you used before that I like?
Nimble.
Nimble, nimble is a good word too. When I,
Emotions or thoughts of the moment.
well, now, what does that say about it's helpful to be nimble?
I'd say flexible.
Flexible.
Yeah.
So I'm thinking of, as an example, I'm thinking of the work I did with David White, 2018-19. The poet, David White, my favorite poet. And he had 3 people as a part of the training for leadership. It was leadership, conversation leadership. And one of the gentlemen is a consultant, I'm sure he still is. And he talked about being nimble. He talked about that because in any given situation, in any given conversation, you don't know what's going to happen in the conversation. You don't know what the other person might say or do. And so to be able to respond rather than react or resist.
That's a good point.
Pardon?
That's a good point. Respond rather than react.
Yeah. Nimble of mind, fleet of foot.
Can't be nimble, can't be quick.
I was thinking the same thing.
Any comments about this one? Impermanence, nimble, fleet of foot, respond, don't react.
When you said respond, don't react, I was thinking how many times I've been, especially in a group like this, where people say something that triggers something in me that I didn't even think of. And so that response or being in the moment with what's happening now really resonates better with me if I'm in that frame of mind.
That's the point, right? That be here now, be in the moment, very present, which gets us out of an agenda in here.
Mary had a comment online.
Very great.
To me, impermanence is kind of mixed, because if it's something I don't want to go away, then impermanence becomes, I'll use the word negative to me. But if it's something I don't like, then of course I'm glad that it's going to move on. So if I'm having an experience that I don't want, impermanence is great. But the fact that things aren't always there, I find that a little unsettling. So I think to look at it as the gift of impermanence, and I'm not sure it always places me squarely in the here and now, but I can see maybe that's a good idea. So it's mixed to me. I wouldn't say I've embraced impermanence, although I certainly see the positives of it. But I see the uncertainty of it. What gives me anxiety, that something may not be permanent.
Is there anyone here who doesn't want certainty?
Well, I think the certainty is what, or when we think of things as being permanent, then you're almost on a wheel of trying to keep it.
Yeah.
When you're talking about finances or relationships, that kind of thing. Instead of going with whatever happens.
Go with the flow. Yeah, and so Mary is, you're right in saying there are things we don't want to end, right? Or to go away.
Right.
And is there some way to control that, Mary?
Well, I have given it a really big effort in my life, but no, there isn't any way.
No.
But I've tried.
I've tried and I didn't do too well at it.
No, it's unsuccessful. So if anybody hasn't tried it, I can tell you it's unsuccessful. But but that doesn't make me want to kind of slow it down or hang on for a little bit, depending on what it is, of course.
Normal human response to what we like and appreciate. No matter
But if I look at it as a gift, then that's a better way for me to look at it
Good, great.
than as a threat. That was more, I've looked at it more of as a threat. A gift, I'm gonna work on it being a gift.
Yes. Anybody else on this one?
I think it also reflects to me that life is constantly changing.
Say it again, a little louder.
Life is constantly changing.
Yeah.
And I know I have my own soul issues. I don't want it to change so much. Even technology is hitting us all the time. You go on the website one day, it's this way, then you go the next day, oh, they changed it. And it's like constantly changing and you know, allowing ourselves to adapt to that. Sometimes for me can be anxiety producing. And so I remember the saying, the only person that likes a change is a baby with a wet diaper.
And, did you all hear the line? The only one who likes changing is a baby's wet or dirty diapers.
The one who wants to change their diaper changed. And that's an extreme, of course, right? I'd rather embrace change and not be so fearful of it. But that requires a lot of spiritual grounding.
Yes,
for
it
me.
does. Yes.
I gotta really work at it and really trust that there is a divine order. And I can't see the whole picture. I don't have the helicopter view. I'm just a human being. And it helps to accept my humanity. That I truly need a divine presence in my life that will help me when my eyes can only see something that seems scary.
Excellent, very brilliant. It's, like I said, within the simplicity, there's a lot of complexity.
Yes.
It's easier said than done. This whole idea of appreciating impermanence. In some ways we can, and in some ways we can't, because no one wants pain.
Right.
And the only constant in life is change.
And the only constant is change. So then the question that comes up for me is, then can I see how important it is to strive to be fully present in the moment? Which is what he's saying. Or what you pointed to, Dee, is that practice, that spiritual practice that is most challenging for me, and that is accepting what is.
Yes.
When I don't like it, accepting what is. But we know that acceptance is the answer to all of our problems today. Okay, moving on. Everyone ready to move on?
Yeah.
Okay, so John, would you read this one, this quote?
Apprentice yourself to the curve of your own disappearance.
Imagine that. David White, my favorite. Apprentice yourself to the curve of your own disappearance. Powerful, yeah. I mean, does it create a picture? So think about the word apprentice. How would you define apprentice? Or when you think of apprenticing yourself, what comes to mind?
That you're open and learning,
Open and learning, great,
working on it.
working on it.
Well, somewhat of a disciple relationship.
A disciple relationship, good. Anything else? So how would you apprentice yourself to your own disappearance?
I think that's too strong. That implies too strong of a bond to me. I mean, awareness of it, yeah. But do I have to be an apprentice to it? I don't know. You know, that sounds like a marriage. You know, it sounds
Not
like
made in heaven.
I don't know about that. No, it sounds like there's a little too much oomph in that to me. It's okay. I need an awareness of it, but I don't know if I need to be an apprentice. You know, that's a little strong.
Not to your disappearance, but to the curve.
I'm aware of it. That's enough for me.
Okay, all right.
This is Kathy. What I see it as, and that's, I think because I have a lifetime of being a manager, is I need to always train somebody to take my place. I'm not going to be here very long. So somebody needs to be able to step in, and it's my job to train somebody to do that.
Thank you. Thank you. Great. Yeah, that is a perspective on the circle of this whole thing of disappearance, right? Kathy, I won't hear of it, but she knows she won't be in this job forever, so is she training somebody? Very good, very good.
But I think too, apprenticing yourself, getting used to the idea that, or being involved in things like this, our church and the gathering of people who were on a spiritual journey, and, you know, realizing that's important to wherever we feel like we're going.
Great, great. Yeah. It's being engaged, really, huh? And the whole thing about one. Kathy, I can tell you.
Yeah, I like that word curve. It's really an interesting insertion into that phrase, but you know, since as soon as we adopted, we are spirit, to like adopt the platform of being in your life as spirit, and to acknowledge that that is you, that is like who I am. And this other is what has propelled me in life, the body, you know, everything that I've gone through. So it's kind of like giving up the container of our existence as body and experiences, and delving more into the spirit of who we really are. It's hard to understand. I mean,
And might I ask, how does that help you?
oh, greatly. It's like, I would like to go to the disappearance without without the centeredness of knowing and experiencing the divine within, or having that as part of my life. It's like what propels me into this next whatever how many years I have. It's actually a very joyous space of being able to experience, learn, and to feel another part of a life, like over 80 years. Well, the first part, it was this, you know, growing up, teenager, marrying, wonderful family, and all of those experiences. I still feel they're still part of that outer container that it led me to want to experience the other more and more.
Great. Thank you. Thank you for expanding. Yes. Anybody else? The curve of your disappearance. Betty Jo?
I think we all need to remember the truth of who we divinely are, and also to remember our social security number, and to drive on the right side of the road.
Excellent. So be in the world, but not of it.
Right.
Yes. Present, fully present. Simple, simple and complex. Yeah. I was thinking of, for those of us who were teachers, remember the bell curve?
Oh, yeah.
And that's just the way it was, right? But when I think of the curve of my life, the bell curve of my life, because there's a curve. Do you remember being a teenager? And I couldn't wait to get my driver's license.
Oh.
The curve is going up like this, right? And then I couldn't wait to be 21 and have a drink. And then I couldn't wait to have kids.
Yeah.
And so the curve kept rising. And as I have looked at my life, you know, I'm not here anymore. I'm kind of over here on the curve. So for me, that is, do it now, do it now, do it now. Not like pressure, but like, great, happy anticipation,
Yeah. Like a great adventure.
great adventure.
Yeah, I like the great adventure.
The David White poem, let me see if I can remember. It's called Working Together. We shape ourselves to fit this world, and by the world are shaped again, the visible and the invisible, working together in common cause to produce the miraculous. I'm thinking now of the way the intangible layer passed at speed over a shaped plane like an airplane easily holds our weight. So may we, in this life, trust ourselves well to the great intangibles and shape ourselves well to them. I don't think that was it exactly, but close enough.
It's beautiful. Which book is that out of? His many.
Yeah, right. You can find it online. It's called Working Together. Yeah, I've memorized a couple because they escaped me. Okay, moving on. Hope inspires the good to reveal itself. Say something about your hopes. Online, anybody online want to talk about what you hope for right now? Or what is an example of your hope inspiring good to reveal itself? Eileen?
My biggest hope is the time when this earth will be at peace and that we will no longer have war and hate.
Good luck.
It's gonna happen one of these days.
One of these days.
Absolutely.
So how does that hope, let's pause a moment. How does that hope of Eileen's that there will be peace on earth? How does that inspire good to, how might that inspire good to reveal itself? Think about what's happening in the world. How is good being revealed?
The people that are helping,
The people that are helping others. Right.
you know, they give up things in their own life to go over there and help. It's marvelous that they do that.
Isn't it? Yeah, I mean, there's been a few stories on the news about people just leaving this to go make a difference over there because they hope for a healing. They hope that people will be cared for.
I don't know his name, but there's a famous chef that gone over and just.
We spoke of him Sunday.
Yes.
Yeah.
Jose, what's his last name? Jose, shoot, got the last name. Anyway, he's a famous chef and I think he's Cuban, I'm not quite sure, Puerto Rican. And his first response was going to Haiti when Haiti was devastated by hurricanes and gather chefs and open a kitchen to feed people. Now he's over in Ukraine doing the same thing. Opening a kitchen to feed people who've lost their homes.
Well, we see this happen a lot of times when there's a tornado or, any kind of destruction where people come together.
Yeah.
Our problem is we forget it so easily, go back to our own lives.
Yes.
Well, we've seen it right here in Buffalo.
Yes. With no mass shootings, yes. Yes. So hope, I mean, scripture has a few wonderful quotes about hope. And for me, it says, hope lives in us. Hope is a place in our consciousness or in our soul that bears the imprint of the divine. I mean, at least in our unity understanding, right, of a God who is all good, all powerful, the love energy itself. So there's always a space for hope.
Doesn't mean we're all going to see it.
Say that again?
It doesn't mean that we're always going to see it when we hope it.
Right.
No. But what does it inspire nevertheless?
It will possibly manifest itself beyond our own lifetime or next week, who knows, but still gotta hope.
Tell me the nature of the vibration of hope. Hope is a vibration.
This is where I think the butterfly effect comes in.
Yeah.
As she said, for the idea of self-hope, that's gonna go around the world, give a lot more people hope. The more hope we have, maybe something will happen.
Yeah. It's that your vibration of hope impacts the whole world in some way. Dee?
I hold heard this wonderful definition of hope, holding open positive energy.
Oh, great. Holding open, positive energy. Great. Yeah, so hope. If you think about what's the opposite of hope?
Despair.
Despair. Now, what is that vibration do for you?
Brings you down.
Yeah.
You hope it goes away.
Yeah, hope it goes away.
Exactly. So hope is a high vibration that's good for our all over health.
Yeah,
Even if we don't see it, you know, you and I hope for peace in our lifetime. We may not see it, but as Arlene was saying, just that vibration that we hold of hope for peace, the thought of peace, the energy of that thought makes a difference.
hope paves the pathway for faith.
Oh, great. Hope, Betty Jo said, hope paves the pathway of faith or for faith. Yeah. Anybody else before I move on?
Well, if you think of the consequences of not having hope, then maybe it's morbidity, you know, it's not a very positive way to think of life not having hope.
It is.
Yeah, it is very positive. If you didn't have it, you'd really be pretty deficit character-wise, and yeah, I mean, it's not a very nice thought, having no hope.
No. And if you all watched, it was 60 Minutes, I believe, this past Sunday, might have been the Sunday before, where they had school children, 2 young ladies and a young kid named Austin, and Austin talked about, I mean, his mother talked about, he went into a deep depression as a student because they weren't with one another during the pandemic when schools shut down. And kids couldn't see one another and interact with one another. It was all online. You know, it has been somewhat endemic, the depression of students because of that. And so the loss of hope generates, I give up, generates, you know, maybe a
Suicide. Lack of hope.
Yeah, absolutely.
Did you say that, Cindy?
Yes, lack of hope.
Yeah.
Creates suicide.
Do you still have your practice?
Yeah,
Did you ever work with high school kids?
I worked with kids and parents basically who had lost children.
Ooh, ouch. Yeah, tough one. That's a tough one. Okay, are we ready to move on? Betty Jo?
We see our image through others too. So we don't always know exactly what we look like until we see it through others.
And so what does that prompt?
I'm sorry?
What does that prompt in you?
Well, it prompts me to be in community and to be with others.
So we learn about ourselves through others, in the
Yeah.
presence of others.
Yeah.
Good one. Okay, I need someone to read this one. Go ahead, Eileen.
Oh, love is what allows us to let go. Loving and letting go are inseparable.
Ouch. Love is what allows us to let go. What do you think about that?
What does it mean? What does let go mean?
Think of a time when you've let go of someone or something. So I have a friend who has had to put down her pet because the pet was suffering. And because she loved that pet, she didn't say, I'm gonna keep this thing until it's dead when I get up in the morning. She couldn't stand to see it suffering anymore because she loves the pet. And so she wants the best for her pet. Same is true of people, isn't it? Yeah. Yeah,
Are we talking about death here only? Is let go is a death? Is that
not
what-
necessarily. Have you ever let go of an opinion?
You know,
Pretty begrudgingly, but yeah,
Well,
okay. I figured if people were honest, they'd say, yeah, I identify.
have we ever let go of a belief?
yes. It's hard.
It's hard.
Definitely, especially if you've been in a different church, you know, and come to unity, you just really have to let go of those other. the other-
Give us an example, can you?
Well, I was part of I was married to a man whose father was a minister in Church of God in Christ, which is Pentecostal. And they believed a whole lot of things that at that time I was young, didn't know any better, and I went along with it. But then when I got away from it and I went and I started with unity, I said, geez, look, it blew me away, you know, it blew me away.
Great. So you let go, you were able to let go of.
I did. I really let go of things that they thought they believed in, that once I found a different truth, I said, gee, they're very deluded. Sorry, they are.
Kathy?
Loving is letting go of your children.
Yes.
I think that's, I received a Mother's Day card, I think it was many, many years ago. And it was a pic on the front, it was 2 trees. And then inside it said, loving is teaching them not to lead, not to lead.
Aw.
Yeah, but I think that's just a beautiful concept, is loving them to lead.
Yes.
Yeah.
But if you're honest, you really don't let go of your children. You just allow them to be themselves, but you just don't let go of them.
Yeah, I think I just think of it as like their own path and not to pull them in. I've seen where they pull them in and it doesn't work.
Right, right. Yeah, it's simple
Mhm.
and complex. This whole thing about letting.
You know,
go.
like you're saying about, he needs to go to the dentist. It's like, just that little bit of,
Yeah.
That's kind
So
of like-
here's a simple thing. I don't know, maybe I'm talking too much.
No, you're not.
So I was with my son, right? And last time I saw him, it was, I was mothering him a little too much. So he's an athlete and he's gotten himself beat up. And one of his two front teeth is higher than the other, right? So I said to him last time I was with him, I said, have you ever thought about getting veneers? He said, no, I'm not getting veneers. I'm gonna keep the teeth God gave me,
Especially because you told me, Mom.
especially because I was butting in.
Yeah, exactly.
I can't give up that mothering.
well, I can understand.
So I got him a water pick for his birthday.
We go around. Like plan B. Plan B, I like that.
As I said, you just don't let go of them.
Yeah, once a mother, always a mother.
That's right. Anybody else on loving is letting go?
One thought that comes to my mind is you could love what a charity does. So you're comfortable letting go of some of your money.
Oh, great, good point.
No.
Wow, that's a very interesting perspective, Linda. Did you all hear what Linda said?
Yes.
Say it again.
You love the work that an organization is doing, a charity is what Linda said. And so you let go of some of your money to support their work. You mean like your church?
Right, food bank.
You know I had to say that. Okay. This is part of this don't wait, forgive. And it's, you know, one of the most important parts.
I love that picture.
Don't you though?
I do.
I know, I love it too. So, and it's kind of related to letting go of your kids, right? Fly away, let them fly. But don't wait to forgive. Why is that important to know and practice?
Well, it opens you up for loving when you can forgive.
Yes.
That's by far the most important part of it, really. I mean, who cares about the other person? If it makes you feel good. No, seriously, I mean, you know, we're all in this for maximizing our joy and happiness, okay? It's selfishness. So if you realize that forgiving makes you get a big joyous rush, you're gonna be forgiven all the time because you're getting the benefit of it, not the other guy. So let's shut this down to the cob here, people. It's not you're so magnanimous to everybody else. You want your maximum joy and happiness. That's what it just happens to benefit the other character as well. So be it.
Besides, unforgiveness takes up space that you need for other things.
Yes, that's right. Unforgiveness takes up space in your consciousness. And I think this picture illustrates what happens. We're either chained by our unforgiveness or resentments, or if we let it go, we're free to move forward. It opens up the space and energy. Anybody online want to comment about forgiving? We're not waiting to? Okay, then it's time to stand for a break. You guys online, stand for a break. We're gonna stand for a break right here. Salt and sugar up here. You guys have to go to your own refrigerators. And water.
Yeah.
That's a good suggestion.
Allie, third time in charge.
But you can't leave the room. I'm just kidding, I'm just kidding.
If I leave my purse here, is it okay if I leave the room?
Yes. Maybe.
Oh, it's got all my valuables. Come on.
The whole diamond. Oh.
I was taking somebody home from church in my dream last night.
You were?
Yes, and when I got there, this guy got out of the car and went to meet his family. And he left these shoes, so I walked his shoes over to his car. And when I came back, my car was gone.
Wow,
What a dream.
I know. And then I was like, I think I was up in Utah where I used to live. And so I was about maybe a half a mile from where I lived. And I thought, what am I gonna do? I don't know anybody here anymore. I don't have my phone. I don't have my purse or my money. It's all in my car. I'll just walk home, I guess.
I mean, you know, if you look at the symbolism, shoes are understanding, right? They cover our feet, which, you know, we say understanding is in our feet. In some arenas, it's said, right?
Well, and your car being your body.
Your car being your body or your life even, yeah. And.
You say you were in Utah?
Huh?
You say you were in Utah? Or you say something?
Yeah, I'm from Utah originally, yeah.
I
So
moved
I
here
was,
from St. George. I moved here.
You did?
Yeah,
I did too.
3.5 months ago.
From St. George?
St. George, yeah.
Wow.
my nephew's up
Were you a
in,
geologist there?
No, just a guy who looked at rocks. That's, I didn't practice anything. I was retired.
Oh, were you?
my nephew's right there in Washington with his family.
Oh, in Washington?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, it's next door
Yeah,
to St. George, yeah.
And, but I'm from Layton.
Okay, okay, up north.
Yeah, so between Salt Lake and Ogden.
Yeah, everything north is north. They're not talking about Montana or Alaska. They're talking about northern Utah when they say I'm from up north.
Right, yeah.
It took me a while to get used to it.
Yeah.
Arlene has a question for you, John.
Where? I don't know where Bassett Lake is. No, I know where St. George is though, but I don't know that.
No, it's Bassett Lake.
Is it by Snow Canyon?
Okay, well, yeah, I'm not real familiar with the real local district.
Is that where you?
I was in Ivans.
Me too, many years ago.
You know where Ivans is?
Yeah.
You know where Ivans is?
Yes, I've been there for many years and recently got married.
And it's actually a city right next to St. George.
Yeah.
It's seamless.
I was very
Well,
Grew up after I
I mean, Mr. Ivans, who was one of the founders of Washington County, along with Rick Young, sent him down.
Where is
to
it?
everybody else.
Gone to the bathroom.
He was practically named the place after him. I don't know when it was.
Ring the bell.
It was small compared to St. George. It's pretty big now. Yeah.
Back to class now.
That's my thought.
Well, you know, what are the odds of 3 people from Utah being in the same room?
Well.
It depends on where you are.
I don't know. Chicago, I think, is still the place to be from around here.
Can we hear anybody from Texas?
Texas?
I
I don't
lived
think
in
we
Texas.
don't have
for a
any
while.
Texans here, do we?
No, not
Oh.
too many.
Her mom is in.
I lived most of my life in Texas.
Yeah,
but was born in Virginia.
Oh, where would you?
Newport News.
My son was
Did
there.
you know Judy's from Newport News?
I believe so.
Yeah.
It took me all day to drive across Texas.
Yeah.
Okay, everybody take a deep breath. We're still with forgiveness here. Joy, would you read that for us? Can you see it all right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Forgiveness is not an occasional act. It is a constant attitude.
What our co-founder Charles Fillmore really espoused that. This is something Martin Luther King Jr. said. And you know, I mean, Black people really need to practice, not need to, but have to because of the difficulties. So forgiveness is not an occasional act, it's a constant attitude. I have down here, what's your experience of forgiveness or what makes forgiveness a constant attitude? Anyone want to respond to either of those?
driving,
Say that again?
driving,
Driving?
driving on
Oh,
highway.
it has to be a constant attitude there. I totally agree. Although I don't always practice.
Good thing you got a fast car.
Good thing I have a fast car. I don't know that. Anybody else on your experience of forgiveness or forgiveness as a constant attitude? Anybody online?
This is Mary. This is, I think, such a good one for me. And driving came to mind too. I was with that other person, but just anything like watching the news. If you can do that constantly, life stays more even keel. I'm not, bouncing around with judging or whatever you do when you're not forgiving. But I find it's much easier when I'm in a good mood than when I'm not in a good mood. But I do think and I've never really seen it written like this. I didn't know that was one of his quotes. It would be a great way to live because you can just get through stuff instantly rather than dragging it with you about that driver or that person on the news that did something that you didn't like or whatever it is. I think it's great.
Good. thank you so much for sharing, yeah.
Are you guys serious about driving and forgiveness? I mean, good grief, that is so insignificant, driving. And some of the very temporary emotional flare-ups you have, that's nothing.
Not when you look at the.
I
road.
mean, really, I mean,
Depends
come
on how
on.
much you
I mean,
drive.
somebody does something to you seriously that impairs your life. Okay, I can understand, that causing trauma. We've all had that. But driving, you didn't mention that as something requires forgiveness? That's so, it doesn't even make the blip on a radar screen.
Well,
Really, I mean, seriously, you get upset that much that if you do, I think you really do need to explore forgiveness. A lot, if that bugs you, because
Well, maybe worry
that should,
about
to me,
road
that
rage.
doesn't move my emotional needle one iota.
Yeah, you gotta worry about not you, but the other guy, road rage.
Why don't,
Other respect. Somebody come out and
what is he, have you been shot or something, from road rage? I mean,
many have.
some have.
well, I mean, I'm talking about you, sir, I mean,
Well, what I do when someone cuts me off or whatever, I always go like this, and it confuses them.
What do you
and
do?
what does
I
it?
go like this,
Oh,
and what that means is you're a flying asshole.
Yeah, okay, but isn't that
But they
really
don't,
just
but they don't know, instead of giving the finger.
does it cause you in a significant emotional disturbance for a long period of time?
Not long period of time, but momentarily, it affects
Okay,
you
it's
right
thought of
then.
the moment. Forgiveness, we're talking about somebody that's really done you wrong, okay? They cheated you out of
Forgiveness is
something,
for anything.
slept
Really,
with
not
your
just some
wife
major.
or something like that. I mean, if we're on the same, totally different wavelength. If you think
Yes.
road rage even gets on the, even an honorable mention, I don't think you
Can I
should.
make a
Well,
comment?
let's just pause a moment and expand our perspective.
Okay,
So on the spectrum of harm, murder is at this end. Someone who cuts me off may be right here on the spectrum of harm. But everything counts. We've said that, right? Everything counts. Because here's another, come around the perspective now, John. So you're here, there's a perspective like this about everything. We all have our unique perspectives on life and our circumstances. I'm inviting us for a moment here because, John, you're right, and there's
I'm
more.
wrong.
And there's more.
God.
So if we can believe that everything is energy, then my momentary upset on the road is impacting my energy. And if I carry that impact of someone cutting me off, even though it's insignificant on the larger scale of harm that can be done, but if I personally carry the upset about what happens when I'm driving, if I carry it into my day, I'm unfit to have a meaningful relationship. I'm unfit to interact with my staff. Because my energy is not good. Sig would like to make a comment. Yeah, I'm gonna get there. Sig?
Okay, I was going to bring it into a different realm. Say somebody offended you. Mortally, or not mortally, but deeply offended you. And it may have taken years in this condition of being offended, but when you forgive them, the thing is, when you forgive them, you actually forgive them and you keep it in mind to keep them forgiven, rather than think back on the things that they did to offend you. So that's what I think of when you say forgiveness.
And it's true, right?
Exactly.
If I've been offended and I keep that resentment, it impacts not only my consciousness and the possibility of maximum joy and creative expression, it impacts my health.
Yes.
So, there's a wide area of perspective or perception. But Martin Luther King is saying it because he really did experience some, getting beaten up and not as much as many, but he saw it and experienced it, and he knew at some level that he could not do his best work unless he was forgiving. And in this sense, it relates to, I think, what you said, Sid, and even what you were getting at, John, in that, we can carry pain with us, the resentment with us of, let's say in Martin Luther King's case, getting hit by billy clubs.
And forgiveness allows you to look at it through different eyes and different perspectives. And sometimes you even look at it through the perspective of the person that offended you.
Yes.
Which it actually enriches you.
Enriches you, yes. Yes. Because we don't know what someone else's consciousness is, right? What caused them to be offended. Yeah. Forgive them, for they know not what they do. Exactly.
Definitely.
If they knew better, they'd do better.
Yeah.
If I knew better, I'd do better.
Let's get a group of us in a car and we'll drive down the road and we'll keep singing in unison, forgive them for they know not what they do when they cross.
I do not want to be as a passenger in a car with a person that gets offended to different drivers on the road, because I lived with one for 25 years.
I agree, but I feel sorry for them when they go way over the top in a situation like that.
Can I say something?
I wish they would.
First of all, those people that are getting so upset in the car, I think we need to have I at least try to have some compassion for them too, because I think that rage at that moment is connected to a lot of things that is going on in their lives, like fear and stress. And I'm not saying it's okay. I mean, it scares me to death when people are having that road rage, but I think it is the tip of the iceberg for a lot of other stuff. So when I get really angry about something, I have to really question myself what else is going on underneath. And the other group I'm in, this was our topic last night, and we had to do our homework, and I realized the people that I'm having the most trouble forgiving, and it is for me a lifelong process, are the nuns that I had when I was a little girl, because it was back in an era where they were pretty abusive. And so for me, as I'm working on that, forgiveness also means knowing that I'm not saying that they were right, that I'm just letting go of that energy that you talked about, Sharon, that draining your energy, putting it into, oh my God, how would my life have been different if they hadn't, messed with my mind and stuff like that. It's really important for me to let go of that energy. So that's all I wanted to add about the road rage people, because, I get concerned that so many people are so stressed and angry right now and acting so impulsively. And so I don't know what the answer to that is, but I think that's, it's similar to you're talking about the kids and how stressed they are. It's just, I think just important that we love on each other right now as people are very stressed. And maybe we can't do anything when they're acting horribly in the car, but what can we do to be kind to each other, to kind of counterbalance all that stress people are going through. So.
Yeah, thank you. That's a good, thank you. That was a good addition. Yes?
I was going to say, for me, growing up, I had a really rough relationship with my mom. She's a wonderful person, don't get me wrong, but she's not a mother. But when I was able to get to the point that I was able to forgive her, plus forgive myself, it just opened up a new relationship. And when that started, I even wrote a letter of forgiveness to my ex-husband, also saying that I was part of the problem too, so forgiving myself too. And letting go of that stuff just allows you to breathe, you know?
Thank you.
I actually love the example of the driving for me, because it reminds me that we're always bumping into each other. Right, we're gonna say things that offend each other, we don't even know we're offending somebody,
Right.
you know, we say the wrong thing, or we act out something that we're not even aware of. And, you know, in families in particular, you know, mothers and daughters and sons and everything else, we are always gonna, you know, bump into each other inadvertently. And so if I can continually just practice that attitude of they're human, I'm human, and forgive all the time, it also helps me forgive myself.
Yes.
Because guess what? I can be the worst perpetrator in the world to myself. And I can have very attacking thoughts. You know, I can just be very lovely, forgive that which person that cuts me off, right? Helps me to remind myself that we're all human, we're all doing the best we can. Good point. Good point.
Important. Okay. Kathy, would you read this one?
Forgiveness is a fierce practice. It takes real strength and willingness to be with what is difficult.
We'll close on this one. What do you, because we close on forgiveness. What do you think about this? Forgiveness is a fierce practice. It takes real strength, a willingness to be with what is. I mean,
One of the things that, I have a neighbor that I struggle with visiting with her. Because she has this really negative attitude, and I have to really bite my tongue very hard and not get into a in-depth discussion about it, because I'm trying to be positive and I'm trying not to complain and I'm trying to be the best person and listen and, you know, understand where they're coming from. But I think that's where, when you say you have to have a willingness to be with what's difficult, because I think, you know, I could have been that person in my past with some of the difficult things that I was going through, and especially at work, complaining all the time about the situation, realizing that I wasn't a positive influence with others, but I was also one of those negative things, and reminds me that I need to look at myself all the time and remind myself to be a better person and not go into that kind of space. So
excellent.
And sometimes you have to deal with those kind of people to try to help them be more positive, see the positive side. Because I have a neighbor the same way, but she's a very negative person, but I'm good friends with her. It lets her let off steam, but it allows me to put positivity in her life.
Good point too.
What do the neighbors say about you guys, though?
Oh,
I just had that thought, you know, but it's always my neighbor, it's never me.
Right. Well, yeah, being with what is difficult helps us see ourselves, as you were pointing to, and keep our love light, keep the spiritual light in us lit, you know, not let it go out. Because it all counts. It all counts. I think he was right about that, it all counts. Okay, take a deep breath. I'm gonna close, I'm gonna pray out. So consider for a moment, what would be the most important thing that you heard today, the most helpful? What will you take with you into the day that might be helpful? Consider that for a moment. And as we close out, so not only hold for a moment what you are taking with you into your day that helps you, is a support. And then bring into this closing prayer time the prayer heart, your heart's prayers. Just hold your prayer request, let's say, in your heart for a moment. God, we just give thanks right now for the fruitfulness of our time together, for the blessings that we're aware of right now and will be attendant to us as we go back into our day and week. We give thanks that the heart prayers of all of us sitting here today are in the heart of your abundant love and goodness. We give thanks knowing and giving thanks in advance that your presence and power in each circumstance we pray and each person we know in prayer is blessing them and ministering to them in some way that matters. And so we go back into our day with a sense of enthusiasm and gratitude for this time, for the blessings in it, and for the blessings to all for whom we're praying. Amen? Amen.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you so
thank you
much.
all for being here.
No,
No, that can't be true.
Nothing to do with the quality of the teachings and road rage and all that stuff.
Are you going back to?
No, I'm gonna go to Europe.
Oh, where?
UK, England.
Yeah, well, I hope so. Yeah.